Well, hello and welcome to the Excel in Retirement podcast, where we help good people make wise financial decisions so that they can excel in retirement. Your guide is David Treese, a financial advisor who shares his expertise to help you achieve a greater peace of mind about your finances today and have the information you need to create a plan for your future so that you can excel in retirement. I'm the host of the show, Andy Traub, and today is the third of three episodes that we focused and built upon each other that will equip you to have the final part of your conversation with your heirs, where you communicate and share who they should be working with and perhaps how much you have in your assets, how much you have of assets in different accounts in different places. And we'll talk about even if you should tell them the amounts or not, which is an
Yeah.
interesting question. So, David, welcome to the show. Thanks for being here, man.
Hey, thanks, Andy. Thanks for being here.
So, we're going to talk first about the team. So, the first thing that matters is to share with your heirs here's who you're going to be working with uh,
Right.
either now because we got to get some legal paperwork stuff done now because we don't have it in place, and also when we're gone, here's who is the key people for you to work with. uh, you were saying really there's one key person whose job it's built in to handle this, and who is it?
Yeah, I really think that the financial advisor in your life should be the one that is the quarterback of the situation. And it's their responsibility to help you coordinate with the estate planning attorney and coordinating as is appropriate with a CPA or tax preparer. And then also with any kind of insurance agent that you might use if that's applicable. But really, I don't believe personally that the attorney or the CPA or the insurance agent or whatnot, it's not in their purview to be able to quarterback your situation. Your advisor is typically the one that is meeting with you on an ongoing basis, and they're assessing the cash flow and what money you have, the growth you have on it, and so forth. And so they are the one that holds the most information about what's most current in your life.
You were saying something about like in the very first when you open the accounts, the very first conversation with your advisor, you should learn like, oh, this person isn't here just to help me; they're to help the next set of people who might benefit from the account. Talk
Right.
about that.
I think it's super important to get to know the kids of our clients and to understand. I mean, it's never fun meeting somebody because somebody died or because somebody is in long term care
Mhm.
or something like that. And so, having a relationship with them, and that's what we want to strive to do more of here at our firm, is to have that relationship with the kids of our children, the children of
Your
our
client, yeah,
clients. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
But
So I
yeah,
think about the literally in the first when you open an account and you go
yeah.
to fund that account, other than, where's the money you're gonna put in the account, the other question you ask is, who gets
Who's
this account at
right,
your passing?
the beneficiaries.
The
Yeah,
beneficiary, right?
it always drives me nuts. Generally, the other spouse, if you're married, is the primary beneficiary, and then your children typically are the contingent beneficiaries, but it always drives me nuts when I see an account and it has no contingent beneficiaries on it. And so all that does is potentially cause whoever could get that money delays and hassle if they were to inherit it ultimately.
Yeah, and also, let's just say the uncomfortable thing out loud. Well, maybe your beneficiaries need to change.
Yeah, yeah.
And I
Think
think it's for different reasons. I've also heard this too, that I've heard people change their beneficiaries not because their kids are irresponsible, because some of their kids are doing better than others
right.
and they don't need it.
Yeah.
And they're
Yeah.
like, I'm doing like I know one of my sisters, if she got nothing from my parents, she'd be like, I don't okay, cool. I don't need it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Whereas another member of my family would be like, I'll take her piece. You know what I mean? You know?
Yeah. That's
So
huge.
I just think it's worth revisiting. It's worth having the conversation. Right?
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. The point here is that financial planning is fluid and it's a living thing, and so it's something that takes constant monitoring. And so that's why it's very important to be meeting with your advisor at least yearly, if not more frequently, to make sure that everything is on course.
Yeah. I think one of the great ways to, and this is how I measure things, is if I go, do I think this applies to tires as well as estate planning, which is if you don't remember the last time you got your tires rotated, you probably need your tires rotated. Okay. And if you're like, I don't remember the last time I adjusted or looked at my beneficiaries, it's time to look at your beneficiaries. Right? If you
Right,
don't
right.
remember, do it.
I was so happy when they started having that, oil that you could go, like, 6,000 miles on, so you just know every time you change your oil, you're supposed to get your tires rotated because it was always
Right.
such a hassle trying to keep up with that, you know?
Love it, love it, yeah.
Yeah.
So, in all seriousness, it is the financial advisor's job, part of their
Yes.
job as they manage the accounts, is to manage the handoff of the accounts. And again, it's better to meet them while all parties could be in the same room,
Yeah,
right?
for sure, no doubt.
Some other people you mentioned, insurance agent, if they have a different life policy, or a tax preparer, or a state attorney, people of that nature. Those are people that it's good to know and have their information. But let's talk next, and this is a huge, really kind of unique and perhaps controversial question, which is now that this last part of the conversation for conversations you have is, hey, now we're going to talk about our accounts.
Mm.
So let's just say that I know I'm the account owner, and I've got, 4 kids. I would want to communicate to them, "Hey, I have this many accounts, this kind of accounts at this many different places." Do I have to tell them how much money I have? And why would I or why wouldn't I do that?
There's different approaches to this. Some people say, "Hey, I'm just got a book or a thumb drive in the safe, and the combination to the safe is at XYZ, or somebody knows that, or whatever, and so you can figure that out then." I think though personally, if the kid could take that information, it would be helpful to know. I think having a spreadsheet with all the different accounts you have all on one page is super important. So there's no guesswork. And I know it sounds abstract and crazy, but we run into people that they come in and they say somebody passed away. And I was just telling you before we started offline that we had a situation where there's about $1.2 million just out in the wind, and the family didn't know where the money was at. And what a devastating thing. And like, what a waste of potential money
Right.
and time trying to figure that out. And so, you know, some people, if you told your kids, if you told your kid, one person, that you have this amount of money, they might be like, "Hey, I appreciate that information. That's good to know." And then the next person might say, "Hey, well, if you got that, I could really use it right now." And so if that's the kid and that's the situation, you probably don't want to tell them necessarily. I think the other important thing here, and maybe I'm getting ahead of myself, but we have to preface this with, catastrophic things can happen, and
Mhm.
our health can deteriorate, the stock market can crash, whatever the case may be. So there might not be anything left over, but on the chance that there is, this is what we have, and Lord willing, it's going to be there for you.
I like the idea of, if your kids can handle it and it's not gonna make the relationship difficult where they're gonna be like, "Well, I want it now."
Right.
Right? Pulling a little prodigal son. "Oh, that's how much you have? I'll take it right now. Thanks, dad." But I like the idea of, this is how much we have, but that's not a guarantee that any of it's gonna be yours,
Right.
right? Because ultimately it's yours. You don't have to give it to them. You can give it to anybody. You can give 30% to one and 10% to the other, and 60% to whatever organization, right? But I think that relationally, you just have to feel out. Is that a number you want to share? Or is that not a number you want to share? But it's your opinion, David, that people have the right to not share that number if they don't want to.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think it's just a case by case basis. And the good thing about a good financial planner is they're going to be a sounding board for you, and they're going to help you when you don't know what the right answer is. And they're going to ask the right questions to be able to help you determine whether you should have that conversation, or maybe it's just one of those you tell them where the safe combination is and the books in there to review all that. And I think that that is good. And if you're yeah, I think an advisor should be helping you with that conversation or that decision.
Let me run through 2 or 3 different scenarios and just give me your take on them. We've touched on a few of them, but I
Yeah.
want to get really pointed. You
Right?
have 4 kids, and 2 of them don't need any more money. They're fine.
Yeah.
What would your advice be to a client who said, "That's my situation. I got 4, but 2 of them, they don't need any more."
Well, I mean, it's my opinion, and I tend to really enjoy justice and being equitable. And so I would have a hard time if I had 4 kids and 2 of them didn't need the money and 2 did, not still giving them each 25%. I mean,
Mhm.
personally, but I mean, I definitely, and I just recently read a book that talked about this. If that's the case, and the kids fine and whatnot, maybe leaving the money to the kids that need it are is a better thing. The other thing, though, I would say is I often hear people say when I ask them if leaving money to their kids is important, I often hear them say that they're doing fine, they don't need the money. But I wonder how much of that is facade and how much of
Mm.
it is accurate because we can portray one thing. Like, personally, I would never want to be a burden. We don't want to be a burden to our families. And then as a man, you have pride that you have it together and whatnot. And so I think a lot of times people think people are doing better than what they are.
Mm.
And especially in our society where we put the highlight reel on social media of everything that went positively in our life. And so there's a lot of misconception there, probably.
Again, these are difficult conversations, but they're going to go way better when you have them versus not have them.
Yeah.
And I think about, someone said that to you, David. I've got two that I think are doing really well and two that aren't. What I heard you say is, are you sure?
Yeah.
Or what makes you think that? Well, they drive a BMW, da da da. Okay, well, do you know you can lease a BMW?
Yeah.
Do you know you can what I mean? Like, there's a lot of different ways to get a BMW, right?
Right.
Or they live in this kinda house. Okay, well, do they have any money in their savings account? Like, I don't know. They just live in a big house. Okay, well, so again, it's time to have those questions answered is now versus later, and that might change how you allocate your resources, but that it's in their right to allocate them however they want, correct?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. It's completely up to you how you want to do that. And if you feel compelled one way or the other, that's totally up to you.
So in this last conversation that you're having with sort of the included parties and this is where it gets down to, allocation of the funds. What's your advice on, because it seems like a lot of older people some of them find peace in having money in a lot of different places.
Yeah. Yeah.
When it comes to when it's time to allocate those, what's been your experience on getting access to those funds? Just from a pure logistical standpoint, let's just say you had 5 different accounts at 5 different places versus you had 5 accounts sort of with one place. Like,
Yeah.
what potential logistical problems are you gonna have, or are you gonna have any?
Right. You know, I tend to be a pretty persistent person, and maybe that came from my dad because he was pretty persistent. Grandpa, yeah, he was born in 1917, so he grew up in the Great Depression, and this is my mom's dad. He, he would never tell anybody where his money was at or whatnot, and he was losing it at the end of his life. He was probably gonna pass away a few days later, and so he was kind of out of it mentally, and, my dad was there, and he asked him about it one more time, like, where his money was at, and my grandpa got on the edge of the bed, and he said, "You'll have to bulldoze my house down to find it all." He had lost it, but the
To the
point he
end.
yeah, the point here is he was a rough, like, blue collar type,
Yeah.
hardworking, honest person, but he was sick of the question, I think. He was still
Ah,
wicked enough to be tired
that's
of the
great.
question. It does create logistical problems, and I think back in that Great Depression era mindset, it was there's safety in having our eggs in different baskets, but boy, that causes a lot of challenges when it comes to the disbursement of those funds and having
Mhm.
to go around to this bank and this brokerage house and so forth to try to round that up. And
Yeah.
someone that is into efficiency would not do that. They would have
Yeah.
a point person that kind of knows what's going on. That's really how you get the most goodie out of your advisor is you really fully utilize them. One thing that I see clients do is they don't fully utilize all that we can help them with. And
Mhm.
so what that tends to be or what may happen as a result of that is there's overlap in services or they're double paying for things by having multiple custodians that are helping them. And so it just can cause tax issues if that's not addressed properly, and it can just be a hassle.
I think about the motivation of the different account holders, meaning, if I work at, R&D Bank or credit union and you have an account there and it's like, "Oh, okay, well, we gotta fill out this form and this form and this form, this form, da, da, da." Okay, that's fine. And you go to another one, you gotta fill out it's like, how many times have you gone to the doctor's office and we're like, "Man, why these forms just get longer and longer and longer," you know what I mean? And it's like, "Well, we gotta go to a different doctor." I'm like, "Oh, man, another set of forms," right? You know? But
Yeah.
but you don't know how fast or efficient R&D credit union is going to be versus, whatever bank versus whatever. I'm not saying have all your eggs in one basket. What I'm saying is that
Right.
the motivations of all those people to liquidate your accounts, it's part of their job, but it's not the bank teller or the person who's worked the bank for 6 months is not as literally invested in your estate as your financial planner is, which is why you should, in my opinion, do your best to just have at least everything consolidated in one place, like physically, like written down, right?
Right. For
But
sure.
yeah, there's as long as they're federally insured to the best of their ability, right? It can create a lot of problems.
Right. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we saw that federal insurance, how good it was in 2022 when interest rates went up and some of those banks couldn't fulfill their
crazy.
obligations. It was crazy.
Yeah.
But I digress.
Well, let's talk about the last piece of it, which is that, we want to give people just a very basic outline of if you're going to have these different accounts and different policies and stuff, what are the documents that they should at a minimum have in place? And the first one you already talked about, which is to make sure your beneficiaries are updated, right?
Yeah, yeah. And something we talked about on our last webinar that we had last month is even putting beneficiaries on our bank accounts. That transfer on death form, or TOD is what it's typically called. It can be very helpful, but we want to make sure that our beneficiaries are accurate and our contingent beneficiaries are set up. I think it's safe to say that everyone needs some sort of estate planning documents in place. And if there's deeds to the house or titles to cars, having those with those documents could be very helpful. And any kind of life insurance
Right.
policies that a person might have, if you still have those, having all that information and then your financial plan there, where it lists the accounts that you have, that could be very beneficial. So having your financial plan, your estate planning documents, those powers of attorney are typically in your estate planning documents, and then any kind of real estate deeds and car titles, and then life insurance docs.
Yeah, and a lot of those I think about, a bank will say, "Okay, that's great, but you have to bring us death certificate," and it's like you're going to get into paper land. You're going to
Right.
get into the land of it's like when
Yeah.
you go try to get your license or whatever. It's like suddenly having a bill with your name on it is really important.
Yes. Yes. Yep. For sure. And you don't want to have to be looking. If you had all those documents consolidated, you're saving somebody hours and hours of time rather than trying to find where they're all at. And so even if you had that on a flash drive, that could be helpful too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, David, thank you for walking us through these three different parts of having the conversations that you need to have with your heirs in order for them to have clarity, for you to have peace. These are difficult conversations,
Right.
but they're really, really important conversations to have while you can still have them. And so it is a blessing to your heirs. It can be a blessing to you. Uh,
Absolutely.
and we encourage you to take David's advice and have that. The last thing I would say is if you have any questions about these kinds of conversations, about the handoff, or you feel like your advisor is not set you up for this is David's passion. This is his heart. This is what he wants to help people with and helps people with day in and day out. So that is what David can help you with. So his contact information will be in the show notes or below the video or audio, whatever you're listening to or watching. So reach out to him so that he can help you, facilitate these conversations so that these things can be dealt with appropriately. David, as always, thanks for your time.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Andy. You do a great job with these.
Thanks. Investment advisory services offered through Creative One Wealth, LLC, a registered investment advisor. Clients excel in Creative One Wealth or unaffiliated entities. We are not affiliated with or endorsed by any government agency and do not provide tax or legal advice. Investing involves risk, including the loss of principal. No investment strategy can guarantee a profit or protect against loss. Licensed insurance professional. Insurance and annuity products are backed by the financial strength and claims paying ability of the issuing insurance company. Investment advisory services are provided in accordance with a fiduciary duty of care and loyalty that includes putting your interests first and disclosing conflicts. Insurance services have a best interest standard, which requires recommendations to be in your best interest. Advisors may receive commission for the sale of insurance and annuity products.